10 years ago, I set off for a journey I'll never forget. It was the peak of summer, and the city felt stiflingly hot, so I decided to escape to the countryside. I wanted to stroll through woods, see green trees, and breathe in the open air. I had a little red car and a map, so I drove all night, eager to leave the city behind. As dawn broke, I felt a deep sense of peace in my car, enjoying the fresh morning air, the warm sun rising in a bright blue sky, and the birds singing. Suddenly, though, my car sputtered to a stop. I was out of petrol. Frustrated but determined, I checked my map to find the nearest town, only to realize I was lost. Just then, I noticed a girl walking along the road, holding a bouquet of wildflowers. She was dressed in an old-fashioned, flowing dress, her long black hair glinting in the sunlight. She was strikingly beautiful, and I wanted to talk to her. So, I stepped out of the car and asked, "Hello, I'm lost. Could you tell me where I am?" At first, she looked nervous, so I spoke softly, explaining that I had run out of petrol and needed help. She relaxed and, with a gentle smile, replied, "I'm not sure, but I can take you to my village. Maybe someone there can help." Grateful, I followed her. We walked quite a distance, and as we went, I thought it strange that her village wasn't marked on my map. But finally, we reached a quaint, charming village. The houses were small and old-fashioned, painted in black and white. Animals roamed freely, and the scene felt like something out of a storybook. She led me into her home, where her family welcomed me. Her parents were friendly, though their clothing was just as old-fashioned as hers. There was a fire in the hearth, with food cooking over it, a surprising sight. I hadn't seen a setup like that in ages. When her father offered me a drink, I noticed it was a dark, strong brew unlike anything I'd tasted before. Curious, I asked them about petrol, but they looked confused. Her father asked, "What is petrol?" They told me they traveled everywhere by horse, which I found strange, but I didn't comment on it. I felt unexpectedly happy there and spent the entire day with them. We shared a meal, and I felt like I belonged. That evening, Mary, as I'd learned her name was, and I went outside. She was beautiful under the starlit sky, and as we spoke, I realized how much I liked her. But suddenly, a sadness crossed her face. "Why are you sad?" I asked gently. "I can't explain," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're only a visitor here, and you need to leave before morning. It isn't safe." Though I didn't understand, her words stirred something in me. "I'll just go to the next town for petrol and come back. I want to see you again, Mary." She said nothing, but her blue eyes were filled with sorrow as she said goodbye. I walked away reluctantly, feeling a deep ache in my heart. I walked for hours before finally finding a town with a petrol station. When I mentioned Mary's village, the man at the station looked at me strangely. "What village?" he asked, frowning. Confused, I described the place, the old houses, the people with their odd clothes. He thought for a moment, then said, "There used to be a village there, but it was destroyed in a fire." That was more than 300 years ago. The villagers were killed for helping the king during the war. Stunned, I couldn't believe it. I remembered the horse-drawn carriages, the old-fashioned clothes, and the fire for cooking. It didn't make sense, and yet it explained so much. The man continued, "There's an old story. They say every 10 years, on one special day, the village appears again, just for a day. But anyone who visits must leave before sunrise, or they'll be trapped there forever." My heart pounded as I recalled Mary's farewell and her warning to leave before morning. Now I understood her sadness, her fear for me. She had saved me. I returned to where the village had been, but I found only an empty field. Flowers and trees swayed in the breeze, and the only sounds were birds and the wind. Mary and her village had vanished as if they had never been there. Heartbroken, I sank to the ground, knowing that I would never forget her. Now, nearly 10 years have passed. I am counting down the days. When the village reappears, I will go back. This time, I will stay with Mary, and I will not leave before morning.